Tradesmen built America. Not policymakers or desk jockeys, but hardworking, blue-collared men and women. Join me, Roger Wakefield, on conversations with some of the nation's most successful skilled laborers. This is the Trade Talks. Did you ever think the trades would get you to where you're at today?
Honestly, I didn't ever think I was going to be in the trades. I stumbled into it. I was an accounting clerk.
Accounting. Okay.
Accounting.
Accounting numbers.
Yeah. I always like numbers. I was actually back, and I talked because you have some Vince Lombardi quotes on the wall and stuff like that. Huge Packer fan. I was the kid on Sundays, like, they'd always have the stats on the screen.
Mm-hmm.
I would still write them in a notebook every Sunday. I want to keep track of what they're passing, the rushing, all of the stats. And I had them in a book every single week that I would sit down and watch the game and do that. I've always loved numbers, data, statistics. So I thought accounting numbers was going to be my future. And turns out it's really boring.
Yeah.
It's incredibly important. But for me personally, it was boring. I grew up in a small family business. I was in the martial arts for 25 years. Grew up we've had a couple schools and stuff like that. So I had some business introduction before I got into accounting, but yeah, I was accounting. I local HVAC companies looking for an accountant. I was not a very good accountant, but he hired me, very low salary, because he needed some help with some numbers and some other stuff, and fell in love with the trade almost immediately.
So he hires you to do numbers, but you end up doing trade work.
Well, not work. So my hands don't have the scars and the rough. But when it comes to the business side, that's the part I love. Leading people, doing the marketing, doing the sales, making sure the business is running efficiently. So very quickly, that business, so the day I walked in, they were getting new cell phones for all the techs. They had 20 technicians. This was March of 2013. By September of 2013, we had 3 techs left because we couldn't pay them on time. So come to find out, the reason they needed an accountant, someone with numbers, is because they couldn't pay their bills. Most people are used to, you get your W-2 and your paycheck and all the tax. You see all the taxes on the thing. Yep. We were literally handwriting the net payroll for checks. We weren't paying the taxes. And at the time, I was so naive. I was about 26, 27. I didn't know. I learned a lot of really great lessons, but I saw the potential in the trades. So that's where I really fell in love with it and got to the point where I just kept working at it because I knew we could get there. We had a huge customer list, but the company's bought out of bankruptcy. There's a whole bunch of issues. The business owner didn't have good credit. He has his own personal financial issues. But we ended up turning around. It took about 1.5 years, 2 years. But it was a very interesting introduction to the trades. I'm surprised that I'm still here.
Is the company still around?
Yes, they're doing great. I was there for about 3.5 years. Got kind of burnt out, just a lot. I mean, it was a lot of grind, a lot of hustle to get to that point. We got it turned around. We hired some good people. We got some systems. We're looking at all those computers and all the setup and all the gear you have here. We had a DOS-based system that nobody knew how to use.
You bet.
You couldn't use.
I remember DOS.
Yeah, and literally, I think it was ESC before it was. Then it was Desco, and then it was Field Edge and stuff like that's kind of evolved. But DOS-based system that nobody knew how to use. Customer records that weren't very good. So it was an interesting introduction to the trades. But I stumbled into it. I had no family in the trades, no background in the trades. I'm not handy. All the stuff you see hung out on your walls here, I would have had to hire someone to do that because I put too many holes in the wall. My wife's fired me from that.
Oh, I'm good at that. Holes I'm good at. I when it comes to, my ex used to laugh at me because if it's something needed to be hung, she wanted to hang it because she knew if I'm involved, there's a tape measure involved. We may have to chalk a line on the floor or something, but it's going to be done perfect. It's got to go right where it goes.
Yeah.
And she's like, look, just hang the picture. It's like, that's not how it works. So yeah, I completely get that. So you go to work for an HVAC company. What about it made you fall in love with it? What made you like the trade?
Honestly, I think coming from, because I did the accounting clerk stuff for like 2 or 3 years, and it was very monotonous. It was very month over month, quarter over quarter, year over year. It was the same thing all the time. And the trades was every day. I didn't know what to expect. It was exciting. It was scary. It was nerve-wracking. I mean, we had a lot of upset customers because that whole time, literally, like we had no credit at any supplier. Our credit back in the day was literally the time I wrote a check to the time we dropped it off at the supplier and it cashed the bank. So I knew we had like a 2-day turnaround. And we played the game.
Because back then there were paper checks. You could beat it.
Paper checks, and you could kind of play that game. Yep. We didn't even have a company credit card. Like, it was bad. I think back now sometimes to that, and I'm like, I can't believe we made it through that. Like we literally had to, it was like robbing Peter to pay Paul. It even got to one point because I saw the potential after about 2 years. I took, because I had somewhat decent credit at that point, I took out a loan to help like get payroll and stuff like that. Because I really saw a future like this. This is like the first place in my working life that I could see myself being for a long time. It didn't end up working out, but a lot of great lessons, which led to future things in the trades and future stops.
What was that company doing right? And I ask that because if you look at companies these days, most companies that reach that situation are out of business. They're either out of business, they're going out of business fast. Some of them don't even know it. They had to be doing something right. They had to be doing something really good in order to make it work, or was just...
Yeah, so the company that was bought out of bankruptcy had a really great reputation from the past. The original owner was really well known, gentleman named Frank Caroli. He actually invented, I don't know if you're familiar with Unico systems, the central air conditioning system. So houses up in Wisconsin have a lot of boilers, especially towards the lakefront of Milwaukee. And so they to cool it, there's really no option because there's no ductwork and things like that. So they had these Unico systems. It sits in the attic and it's got all these runs in the attic and stuff like that to shoot cold air down. It's a great system. He actually was on the board to create that. So he's very well known from that side of things. Handed over to his son. Son ran into the ground. So the business owner that I worked for, we bought it out of foreclosure, bankruptcy court. So they had a massive customer list, but they had no strategic way of moving that forward. It was just, we took the calls that came in, a lot of longtime customers. On the install side, we were priced well. Like that pricing was good. Looking back, our service pricing sucked. We had we had a lot of very service fee tickets, no additional upsells, no opportunity in the middle ground. It was either service fee or it was an install. So we did have a good process that way. We had a couple good selling techs. But that's what pulled us through. And honestly, we kind of had to push that stuff at that point because we needed the dollars in so we could keep paying payroll and we could keep making all of our, all the things that we needed to pay back, which we ended up paying back about 120 grand in tax withholding stuff and all kinds of other debt and stuff like that over the years.
It's good to see companies that have been that far down and were able to turn around and fix it.
It can happen
because it does.
I would not want to go through it again.
Yeah, it's not a good way to do it.
That's why I don't have any hair.
Yeah. I'm right there with you. You said a good selling tech. What makes a good selling tech?
It's all in communication. I mean, it was. We didn't have a lot of training at that point. Like it is wild to think because that was about 11, almost 12 years ago now. What I know now and the systems and all the things that we learned from all these shows and these coaching companies, we were just blessed with. We had two guys. We had one in Madison, one in Milwaukee that were both very good at turning those things into new installs. It was all communication. That was really the gap. We had people that wanted to go fix stuff, and then we had a couple that didn't mind opening up. And we had a lot of old systems because that customer list was so old. Yeah, I think the total customer list that we had was like somewhere in like 30,000 people, like massive customer list. But they were only doing about $1 million a year when we started there. Just did not have an infrastructure that could actually work for growth. We didn't have any follow-up systems. We didn't have any marketing. Our website sucked. Like everything sucked. It was just terrible. We had no reviews. And at that point, reviews weren't as important, but we just didn't have any systems to make things happen. So we had to rely on the techs that were there to sell. And they did enough so we can keep paying debt and keep aggressively paying that stuff down. Eventually got a line of credit because we kept paying regularly. But there would be days when that first 6 months, it felt like almost every other Friday when we had payroll, I was picking up a van because someone's like, yep, cash my check. Here's my van. See you later. They're moving on. And I can't blame them. I mean, I would have probably done the same thing if I was them, but it was a mess.
Anytime you're working someplace that you've got to drive to the bank wondering if the check is going to cash, it's tough.
As soon as I got the checks and I could see because I had access to the bank account, they just all, none of them would deposit. They just mad rush to the bank because it's like, I'm going to get it first, and take care of myself. And at the time, I had 2 young children, and I would hold on to my check. I mean, I didn't have a lot of bills at that point and stuff. So just a tiny little apartment. I'd hold on to my check for sometimes 2, 3, 4 weeks, just like get these guys paid.
Right. Everything's good.
Because to me, it was always super important for me to take care of them because no matter what I did internally, they were the face of the company.
Right.
And I think all too often, sometimes we forget that the people that actually take care of the customers are the ones that we really need to take care of. So I don't know if it was just naturally, but I understood that they were the important people and I had to take care of them because I wanted to keep them so we could keep getting further down and get that debt down and start making the company fun again.
It's a great way to look at it. So take just a second and tell everybody who you are and what you do.
Yeah. So my name is Joshua Crouch. I was in the trade for 9 years. I worked at 3 different HVAC companies. I also had a stint as a territory sales manager for about a year. But after that, I founded Relentless Digital, which is a digital marketing company for the trades. Our focus is local SEO and marketing automation. And a lot of that, the company didn't have a grand design of opening up Relentless Digital. We were part of a coaching group, and I started seeing a lot of local success with Google business profiles and things like that in our market. So I started sharing that stuff in the business coaching group that we were a part of. And I started having people reach out and say, "Hey, can you do this for me?" And I said, "Well, I've always had the spirit to try."
You bet.
Anytime there's a challenge, I'm like, "Well, sure, let's see if we can do it." And because I wasn't handy, I wanted to, at that point in my career, I wanted to own or be at least a part owner of an HVAC company because I thought that was going to be my future. But that lack of technical skill in the field held me back mentally. And now I'm realizing it, seeing the growth of the industry and stuff like that. Now there's a lot of people that aren't business owners running very successful trades companies. I realize now that I could have done that. But I saw an opportunity for myself to start a company and grow it and take the lessons applied from the trades into the digital marketing company. And that was about 4.5 years ago now. And things have been going really well since.
So 4.5 years ago, you start that. When did you get introduced to the best practice groups? Because you talked about coaching and training.
Yeah. So, the first introduction I had was to Facebook groups when Facebook started coming out with their groups. And we did have some stuff through our supplier at the time, which was really interesting to me. And actually it was a company, I now live in Arizona. The company's out of Arizona, George Brazil, huge plumbing, heating, air conditioning, electrical company. They had a coaching arm and they were part of the same equipment supplier that we were using, York. And so they brought some people in and we started going to that. And it was just like, I was drinking from a fire hose. I did not know much about running a successful business and the practices and the coaching and training, all those things. Then I found Facebook groups and I found some people that kind of early on started to really push information out, and kind of got into that network. And that network's kind of been the same since that point. Kind of always searching out Facebook groups. And now I'm at the point where I'm trying to give back to people that have the questions and trying to give them the information that they need. But I've always loved the coaching aspect because there's always something you can learn. Even if it's someone smaller than you, can always learn something from them. You don't always have to go look at I want to be the $10 million company. I'm a $5 million company. I want to go look at them, but there's still things you can learn from the $1 million company because he can change things on a dime. It's interesting because even I'm in a marketing agency coaching group. And for a while I started to realize I was one of the bigger companies in that coaching group. And you start to get a little ego, like, oh, I'm bigger than them. What can I learn from them? And,
right.
and I realized, and I started kind of paying attention to some of the training of these guys who were doing 1/10 of what we were doing, but they're able to pivot and they have the creativity because they can test things. They can do things that as the ship gets bigger, it's a little harder to kind of facilitate those things. It's just a nice lesson to keep the ego in check and realize you can learn from anybody.
This video is sponsored by High Level. For your 30-day free trial, go to gohighlevel.com/Roger Wakefield. I love that because when I first got in the union, the guy who got me in the union, which I'd worked open shop for 17 years. So I called the guy that had helped get me in the union. I said, okay, I'm starting out on the job site tomorrow. I said, give me a piece of advice. I don't know anything about the union, never worked in a union. He said, always listen to your apprentices. Always ask them questions because they're going to school right now and they're learning the latest, greatest, newest thing, whatever it is. So don't be afraid to look at your apprentice and step back and say, what would you do here?
Mm-hmm.
And let him answer you and listen to him. You may find a new way to do something. And I was like, wow, you know what? That's pretty cool. And it's funny because I talk about tradespeople all the time. We get in the trade to become a plumber, to become an HVAC tech, to become an electrician. The problem is most of us, when we get in the trade, we get that license, we stop learning right then. It's like, hey, I got in the trade to become a plumber. Now I am one. Let me go plumb.
Yeah,
just let me go plumb.
Let me pay me every week.
And we have no idea that most of us have no idea that with the right training, the right education, the right knowledge, you can continue to grow and make more money forever. It's the value you bring. I love the fact that you're at a company and you learn things there. It's like, look, this is how I can help the companies. This is how I can do this. This is how I can do that. How hard was it to make that shift and say, look, I'm going to go from working for a trades company to really, really working for trades companies?
Yeah. So integrity is a huge thing for me. Grew up in the martial arts. I was in the military, in the Air Force. So it's just, we have a military family. It's not a trades family, military family though. So very discipline, integrity, honesty, all of those things were really hammered into me at an early age. So I told my boss, probably after I got like my fourth or fifth client, I kind of told him what was going on. I think he knew people, because there were people in that coaching group reaching out to me, and then, so I wanted to tell him, so they're not coming to him when he goes to some conference and be like, hey, Josh is doing my marketing, right? He's kind of blindside him because he's a really great guy.
Right.
Don't
want to mess up the relationship.
Was great to me. He actually became a client as soon as I went on my own. And we actually continued until he sold his business, and we're still marketing for that client. But he was really good to me. So I wanted to make sure that it was equal, and kind of told him what was going on. At the time, I didn't know what my plan was, because I had to get approval from the wife to be able to fully get out on my own, because I was a decent paying job and stuff like that. So that was a fun conversation to try to have, and have her realize like I was really going to take this thing seriously, which I'm sure a lot of listeners they probably have had the same conversation. They're plumbing for someone else. They want to start a business, and all of a sudden now you got to figure that out. And it's different when it's your money and you don't know when you're going to pay yourself, or if you can't pay yourself and you got to make an investment somewhere. But it worked out really well. Had the conversation with him. We continued to have those conversations, and he knew I think he could tell at some point. I just had that entrepreneurial drive and spirit where, like, you didn't have to tell me to come in early. You didn't have to tell me to stay late. You didn't have to tell me to come on the weekends to bring equipment to the guys if they were working. I always set up the shop at like 5. I had like an hour drive, and I would leave at like 4 o'clock, 4:15. Get there, set up the shop, get all the tickets for the day, set the dispatch schedule, do all of that stuff before the guys got in, because the trades can get so hectic when it's hot, and especially HVAC when it's hot and cold. It is a zoo. I can at least make a plan and then have some backup plans in case I had to pivot. And I just enjoyed it. It was the quiet, jam some music out in the morning, but it was just a fun thing for me.
Trades companies, we all think we need one thing to make our phone ring. A lot of times we've got to get a lot of other things done right first. You have the right sales trained person going out to talk to people, to give them options, and I tell plumbers all the time, look, I don't sell, but I believe in giving them good, better, and best options. But at the end of the day, let's go back. We end up seeing each other at best practice group conferences, trade show conferences, stuff like that. When did you find out, and I don't mean a Facebook group, but a legit brick and mortar best practice group, when did you find out about those for the trades?
I mean, I had that initial introduction when I was at the first HVAC company that I was at.
So they were part of one.
Yeah, well, it was through the supply network. So it really wasn't something we signed up for. It was just, hey, you're a dealer of this equipment. We have this training. You want to come. The first best practice group was probably the second company I opened a branch for. I sought them out because I knew we needed to do more, because I was not an owner, but it was like literally my branch. It was an hour away, no customers. Like, we started with nothing. And I realized that I needed to train my people, which that's where I introduced Brittany, my wife, to the trades. She was a hairstylist like yourself.
No, got to talk to her.
You got
yesterday.
to talk to her.
I probably got to talk to her more this weekend than you did. You were busy all weekend.
Yes, and
all week.
She did it for 10 years, and she's always been that person. She just is a great listener and asked the questions. I'm like, man, you really, really need to get into sales. So I've been dragging her with me kind of ever since, because she's amazing. And we don't butt heads. Great person. Yeah, she's the people person. I'm the business operations marketing person, and we don't butt heads. But I think sometimes when we get asked that question about the working with your spouse and what that looks like, or just even work with a partner. Because Tersh and I are partners. You're going to interview him tomorrow. You have to have your lane. You can't butt heads. If you start overlapping and start giving criticism here for something that's not really your thing.
Right. You should have done this way.
Yes, it becomes
your division.
If you're partnering with someone, you got to trust that they have the best interest of the company in their avenue, or you got to buy them out and just figure it out. Because it doesn't work. It's just going to lead to long-term stress. But I've been lucky. Brittany's been great. But she came in, she knew nothing about the trades. So I had to find a practice group that could train her on not only the equipment, so she knew what the hell she was talking about, but just the series of questions, how to lead up to that opportunity. Because she was doing the actual sales appointments, not like a technician flip where it's just a little easier conversation. So that's kind of when I found best practice groups, and I started finding those through the Facebook groups. People are like, oh, this one, and you start looking into them, and you kind of start seeing what they're all about, and try to find one that makes the most sense for you.
So you get into the best practice group, or you get her involved in one.
Mm-hmm.
I never even knew they were out there. I called a marketing guy that used to have, he actually was a marketing guy, found out how much money they were making in, I think it was electricals, the first company, bought an electrical company, is a one-man company running. And he's like, dude, you can grow this so big. The guy's like, yeah, I don't want to grow. I just want to keep doing what I'm doing. He says, well, let me just buy you out. Buys that, an HVAC company, a plumbing company, swimming pool repair company, puts it all under one umbrella and makes the phone blow up. Well, I called him when I'd had problems with some marketing companies and talked to him, and he said, look, are you in a best practice group? I'm like, what is a best practice group? Josh, I'd been in the trade for probably 35 years at the time. Never heard of a best practice group.
Wow.
Didn't know what a best practice group was. And it literally blew my mind that there's a group of coaches, trainers, other companies nationwide and companies in your area that get together, communicate, talk, and help each other.
Share.
I literally, after I got in it, the biggest company in town is probably doing about $200 million a year now. Called the owner, said, hey, can I talk to you? He said, yeah, come on over, bring your price book. I walked in, laid out my price book. He opened it up, said, you're not charging enough. Slid it right back. I'm like, how do you know that? He said, because I know my numbers. And I'm like, how do I get to charging enough? And started learning about value. And you bring more value, you can be the cheapest plumber in town. If it's just you in a truck, you might even make a little money at it.
Yeah.
And I said little. Because if you're paying taxes and doing all those things you're supposed to do, you're not making
exactly
as much
why
money
we
as
weren't
you
paying
think.
taxes at the first company because we couldn't afford it.
No. I've been there. I've seen it. But the thing is, I never knew there were best practice groups out there. Now that you're involved with them more, do you see the value in them that they bring to smaller companies? I got even bigger companies.
Yeah, and I think you met him at the booth we were just at Service World Expo in Orlando. His name was Matthew Abbott. We interviewed him about a year ago, and he wanted to come to the event and see what it was. And he's in business insurance for the trades. He went to different breakouts and keynotes, and literally every time he came back, you could just see the joy and excitement on his face.
Him and I talked forever.
He's a great guy. Yes. Great guy. He's in Tampa. But just the joy and excitement and a lot of the stuff. I mean, Tersh and I've been through a number of these now, both on that side. And now we're at the point where we're actually giving the breakouts and some of the keynotes and stuff. And it's going to those conferences now. It's the excitement that you see with people and the ideas that they're going to bring. It kind of keeps pushing you forward. Maybe you don't learn something tactical or strategic at this point, but that energy, that buzz, that it fuels you and it refuels you if you're kind of getting down and just like, man, it's just a grind at this point. And just getting around other entrepreneurs and realize that there's so much more out there for people to do, and everyone's doing it. And then you see all the new technology that's out there. I think it's super valuable. I think the thing is, some people come and they just come and they've been coming for years and they just keep coming. They don't really have a plan. They don't go to I need these 1 to 3 things that are going to move my business forward next year. Mm-hmm. And they don't come with a plan, and they don't plan out their day. And I'm going to go to these sessions. I'm going to only focus on this thing, and I'm going to talk to people about this thing. They just come and they hang out and they drink free booze.
It's funny. Matter of fact, the book's sitting right over here. The conference guide, social media marketing world. If you look down here on the bottom, a great job. It's 2018. Okay.
Yeah.
The first conference that I went to, and I love what you said, because literally I got my agenda and I'm going through circling things like this is what I've got to go to.
Yep.
And of course I bought the recordings. I bought everything. So you get to go. There's other pages that have one circled, then another one with a check mark or a star.
The ones you've done.
And it's like, this is the one I wanted to go to. This is the one I've got to watch later. This is the one I really need to watch later. And it literally, it blows my mind, because even at a lot of the trade shows we go to, there's not a lot of technicians there. There's a lot of owners, a lot of managers. And every now and then, 2 weeks ago, I was with PHCC National at PHCC Connect.
Yeah.
Some of the companies bring technicians with them. Some of the best practices groups, some of the events that I go to, they'll bring their team. I literally remember going to one time and walked, this guy's got like 40 badges around his neck. I'm like, dude, they reprint your badge that many times? He said, no, I'm bringing my entire team. And I mean, you're talking 40 hotel rooms for, 3 or 4 days. And he's like, my team comes and learns at this, and they see things a completely different way than I do. And me being a person that never went to best practice groups, never even heard of them until a couple of years after I owned my own company, it's like, man, what am I doing wrong? And you don't even know. Most marketing companies, or not most marketing companies, most plumbing companies, trade company owners, they walk in thinking, I just need to make my phone ring. It's all I need. And I remember walking into the first one I walked into, talking to one of the coaches, and he said, what's your biggest need? I said, I just need to make my phone ring. He said, seriously? I said, yep. He said, that's all you need. I said, that'll help right now. He says, okay. He says, are you making money on every job? I think so. I don't know. He says, so you don't know? I said, no, I don't know for sure. So I may be losing a little bit. He says, well, if you're just losing like 2% and I make your phone ring 10 times more than it is,
you're going to lose more.
You're just going to lose money faster. Yep. And marketing is huge. I mean, I think now looking back, that is the biggest thing that hurts most companies, but not having properly trained people, knowing not how to sell, but how to communicate, how to build options, how to build offers, how to look at everything. It's hurting these companies. And I love best practice groups now, even the national organizations, PHCC, the United Association. I do stuff with both of them. I used to be a union member for 20 something years. I didn't even know about PHCC. So it's like the companies that I worked for were either super big union companies or smaller residential companies that didn't grow, didn't invest in their employees, didn't invest in their members. And I look at the way we were getting calls, and it was all pretty much word of mouth, people that we knew.
Yep.
What made you want to get into marketing and say, look, this is an area where I see a need. I see problems. I see companies either not using it, not knowing how to use it, whatever it is. What brought you that direction?
I think I've always enjoyed telling the story of the company. And doing the social media and just broadcasting the message. And so we had to constantly get new jobs with that first company because we needed the cash. It was always pushing and continuously saying, like, we have to let people know because we have to be in front of them. And then when I opened a branch, I had no customers. So at that point, like literally every job, every review, everything we did, every picture we took and put it in our CRM, that became a marketing opportunity. So I looked at it differently, where most companies, especially now with Service Titan and Sarah and House Call Pro and all these different CRMs, they all company cam, where you take pictures and store them. They have a lot of content. They have no idea what to do with it. They think it's just for internal use only. People want to know what you're doing. They want to learn. And one of the last company that I started with, we had a CRM that wasn't very useful. One of the first things I did was change that. Second thing I did, we had like 46 Google reviews. This company had been in business for 10 years. 46 Google reviews is 2019. So it's getting to the point where like reviews started to really become a thing.
Almost 5 reviews a year.
Yeah. Yeah. Literally like 5 reviews a year. We had one bad BBB complaint. We were not showing up on Nextdoor. We had like, I don't know, 5 Facebook reviews. Well, that's when Facebook reviews still had reviews. It wasn't like recommendations.
Yep.
So we implement a system. We just started automation. So as soon as job's completed, we sent them an option and we sent it to everybody. We sent it to estimates. We sent it to new jobs.
How was your experience?
Yeah, just tell us. And here's the platforms. If you don't want to leave it on Google, some people don't want to leave it on Google or Facebook for, you know, big tech stuff. So we leave it on Nextdoor, leave it on the BBB because we had some older people in that area. And we ended up going from 46 Google reviews to almost over 600 in 2 years, just by automating. Now, to your point, if your technicians suck, if they don't communicate, if they don't actually care about the customer, if they don't do the right thing by the customer, that can also be a bad thing.
Oh yeah.
But we had
you can get 1-star reviews just as quick as you can get 5-star reviews.
Yeah. But we had that in place. So we had the people, we had people that cared. They were trained on how to properly run a service call and stuff. We just didn't have a way of broadcasting it. So we automated that process, went from one bad BBB complaint to over 25 5-star reviews, kind of drowned that one out. We had over 100 Facebook reviews. We had over 600 on Google, and we just massive increase. And that carries over. So not only in Google Business Profile and Google Maps, people are finding us like crazy there. They are also finding us on, because all the Facebook recommendations and those same people that leave the Google reviews are on Facebook and all the local Facebook groups.
Oh yeah.
When we started on, I have little videos of this, little screen share videos on my phone. And we went from like a couple mentions when people look for someone local that was an HVAC company to over like 60 to 70%. It was just, we drowned out everybody else. And that carried over to all these different Facebook groups, some that I wasn't even a part of. So then we started turning that around. Like, how can we educate those people? How can we be the thought leader, the teacher of these things? So like when we have really big events where it's gonna be super cold, it's gonna be super hot, we're teaching them what's gonna happen with their HVAC system. It's working. The temperature might not stay at the thermostat. You know, all the different tips. Especially when it's frozen up in Wisconsin, you got the ice and the snow blocking the PVC vent, and it's going to shut the unit off. Like there's just things like that to kind of, that stuff started blowing up. We had a couple posts that, like, I don't know if they went viral, but they got shared a couple hundred times, and people in all these different markets, when these different cold snaps happen, were sharing our stuff, and it just resonated. But that's just that value, just always trying to educate, trying to help people, so that way nothing in it for us. I mean, obviously we want them to call us, but we don't even leave a call to action at the bottom. It's literally just, here,
thank you.
Share this with a family, friend, share it with anyone, just someone that can help. But that, and then automate. Every time we got a review, that 5-star review on Google went on all of our social media profiles. That was before some of this technology, like high level and stuff, could really make that easy.
It's hard to do.
We had to automate it, and it was challenging to do through Zapier, but every time we had a training session in the morning, we'd have our team come in. Mondays was our huddle, Tuesdays was tech training, Tuesdays was communication training, Friday was tech training. And I'd be in the marketing guy, I'd see them in a huddle, I'd see them in a good spot in our shop, take a picture, talk about what we're doing, why we're doing it, why training's so important, why do we do this every single week? No matter if it's 100 degrees or 0, we always train, and this is why, because we want to present ourselves in the best manner. And it's just, marketing came easy to me that way. I enjoyed that aspect of it, of coming up with the story and sharing the story. But to your point you made earlier, we're talking about multiple things now. You have to be doing all of these things. You can't just have one channel or one way. Like, word of mouth's great, and you can grow, especially if you're from the local community where you start your business and you know some people and you have some friends.
If you live in a town of 100 people, word of mouth is amazing.
Yeah, it's great because there's no marketing cost, but at some point you have to start getting customers outside of that ecosystem, or even just remind them to, hey, because we used to do a week after their job. Every Monday morning I get a report that I emailed to myself. Anyone that spent over $200 got a thank you gift card. Yep. And it was automated. They already had, I just sent the list to the direct mail company, and they sent it out. And then 3 weeks after that, they'd also get another thank you gift card. So 2 $25 gift cards, and they get a $50 card to give to somebody else. And then they would hand it back to us. And then I'd have a stack on my desk of all the cards that we got back. But just constantly being in front of them and constantly reminding them that we're in business. We want to help you. Tell someone about us. I think too often I find business owners, well, I don't really want to talk about myself. I don't want to ask for a review. And it's like, you care about doing a good job. You post the pictures of your work in the
Absolutely.
HVAC technician groups that they all tear each other
Oh,
apart
yeah,
for something.
Yeah, you'll get bashed
You did
in
plumber
there.
groups like that. Oh,
Absolutely.
why'd you do it that way? You know,
Yes.
but
I'd fire you.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you care about the work that you're doing, but you just don't want to ask.
Mhm.
It's like, why? You know, you have to look at yourself as a marketing company that does HVAC, plumbing, electrical. And I know that's not everyone's strong suit, but there's these young kids today, as you mentioned, like they understand marketing because everything is marketing. They're constantly taking pictures and videos that they understand. You have to put yourself out there. And it just plays such a big part in our role. And so took some of those things that we did, not all of them, because some of the social media stuff is really hard to do at scale for other companies. I think everyone kind of they should invest in that themselves, or at least have something, maybe, okay, here's a video, but you still got to go, your people got to be in the video, your trucks, your shirts, you know, have some fun with it. But the other stuff, Google Business, getting the foundation set up right, and then the marketing automation piece, which is a huge thing. It's become even bigger. Now you can kind of leverage the marketing automation with AI, which makes it exponentially more powerful. And we saw a lot of that at Service World Expo with the different companies that are out there.
Yeah. AI is changing everything we do.
I don't think people realize how good it is today and how fast it is evolving. I had a post. It was somebody that has a different company, mostly text message marketing. He hasn't really layered in the AI piece yet, and mentioned, you know, that people buy from people they know, like, and trust. It's got to be all three, and AI is going to kind of ruin that. I'm like,
and I change it. I say know, love, trust, and be connected to.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah,
I like that.
That's the biggest part. You've got to be connected.
Yeah. And so we kind of looked at, like, well, AI is going to, like, change it, and people aren't going to know, like, and trust you. And I'm like, the thing is, we're not even going to know. It's so good and so empathetic and friendly, and they have AI that literally, like, well, as you say something funny, it will laugh. Like, it's wild. Tersh and I were at an event a couple weeks ago, and we use ChatGPT on our phones, and they have the voice. Voice model.
I talked about it yesterday.
You can talk to it; it'll talk back to you.
It's your assistant.
Like, literally, and so I started a conversation with mine, and his was open. They were talking to each other, and the conversation just kept going. It was hilarious. Like, we literally were staring at each other with one of those, like, dumbfounded looks, like, what's are we entering? Yes. Like, where, like, all these movies that came out 10, 15, 20 years ago, I'm like, maybe this is all going to happen. We don't know. But it's a wild thing, but the technology is so good.
And the thing is, this is as bad as it's ever going to be.
I know.
Because this is only going to get better.
It's so exponential. Like, it's just, you know, we look at where we came from with the dawn of the computer, to the internet, to the email, to the smartphone. And what else is involved? And it's come faster and faster and faster. And we're at a stage now where this AI, essentially, the technology, I think the latest version of ChatGPT, I think the IQ test they gave was like 120. So it's the first time one of the models is actually smarter than the average human. You know, they always kind of take these bar exams and all these different tests. Like, how smart is it based on the information we've given it? But it can think. Like, we think, like, ideas. You're in the content creation game, and coming up with ideas. Sometimes this is the hardest thing to do, because you got so many things going on. You're traveling. You got all these things going on. It's like, I don't know what to talk about today. I don't know what video to create. But you can literally ask it in a conversation just like this, and it can spit out 50 ideas. You know, they're not all going to be good.
Absolutely.
You still got to use your
intuition. A lot of them are going to be spelled wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know?
Yeah. But you can come up with massive amounts of things. And then if you don't know what to ask it, you can ask it, what should I be asking you? And it tells you,
how should I be considering these 10 things.
Yes. Yeah. So it's really interesting.
I love it, because I use ChatGPT, but I've switched over to Ask ROI, because Ask ROI is a closed network.
I've seen a lot more of those pop up. I heard a lot of.
If you put your data in, nobody else gets to see your data, which is huge. But it also uses like 10 of the GPTs, including ChatGPT. But when you ask it something, it reaches out to all 10, gathers this information, and then gives you the summarized answer. And I love it, because it's like, I think Ask ROI it literally blew my mind. But you can use it too as a company to go and you enter your spreadsheet, you enter your data, you enter your KPIs, and you can make it start trending and tracking and say, look, here's what's coming. Here's what's going on. Here's your weakest salesperson. here's this. And you can go in and have it look at your anomalies, your trends, look at everything, and it becomes the greatest assistant on earth.
Yeah, because I don't know too many people that like looking at month over month their P&L and like, you know, percentage changed 1-2% here. Because now you got to dive into the line item, like, oh, what happened? Why did we overspend our budget? But the and that's the thing, it can analyze it so fast.
Yeah,
we used to do it. So where Tersh and I met, and Tersh and I, for people that don't know, we have Service Business Mastery podcast. It's for business owners, managers, and technicians that want to become business owners. And we met out at an event it was called War Planning, and it was a 3-day massive immersive intensive into numbers. You had to bring all these reports, you had to print them all out and have them all ready to go on these spreadsheets. Dove super deep into numbers. By the time you're done, like literally your brain is completely melted. Like I don't want to see another number. It was very beneficial, but it took 3 full days to do this. Plus you got to travel and go be in front of that. And then you got to try to remember everything you learn and apply it. Now you can take the same information and you still need to know the questions and stuff. So it still takes some time, but you can give it, and this thing can analyze
absolutely every little detail,
seconds. So it's wild. I appreciate the recommendation. I'm going to check that one out because
Ask ROI is phenomenal.
So I heard and there was one that was being floated around Service World Expo. It's called Magi. It's MAGAI.
Right.
And so some of these GPTs, especially for
was it Magi or Magic? I thought somebody said Magic.
Magi.
MAGIC. Okay.
Yeah. MAGA, because I looked it up after.
Okay.
MAGAI.com, or look it up. You'll
Something
find
like
you'll find it. It's for businesses, but it's an AI for businesses. So that way, it's similar to what you mentioned, it is specific to you. It doesn't get shared to the internet. It's a closed loop. But it seems to be that those solutions are starting to pop up now, where you can put your information in. Now it starts remembering everything about your company. You talk about marketing, you talk about brand voice, putting that information in. If you have brand guidelines and colors and all these things, you can give it that, and it starts ask it to create an email newsletter once a week and give it a couple topics, and all of a sudden now you can have a weekly topic. You don't have to think. Now you just got to put the pieces together and make sure you have the systems to kind of funnel that through, and maybe a coordinator to make sure everything fits.
This video is sponsored by High Level. We've partnered up with High Level because we believe this is the best all-in-one sales and marketing platform to help you grow your business. For your 30-day free trial, go to gohighlevel.com/Roger Wakefield. I know a guy in the trades. He's also a social media influencer. He does a lot of posts and stuff like that. He literally wrote a training book for his trade with ChatGPT, 600-page book. And literally now he's using that to set up training all around the United States, training from a book that he wrote with ChatGPT. It can do anything if you know how to ask it or tell it or however you talk to yours.
I find a lot of us, I still say please and thank you to
I do
mine.
too. I mentioned that to Tom yesterday.
Because I'm like, it's a computer,
yeah.
Right? It's a thing. I'm like, can you please do this for me?
Absolutely.
So at least it thinks I'm polite.
To an assistant. You bet. Right. Exactly. Maybe you're going to do a little better job because I'm being nice to you. Right. What is it, do you think, that most new companies, guys that are in the trades forever, they're like, I'm going to start my own company. Or even companies, some that have been around for a long time, and they're never getting that momentum. They're never getting that push, that growth spurt, that, hey, look, we're doing things right. What are they lacking? Because you talk to a lot of different companies nationwide. Yeah.
I think a lot of them just aren't promoting themselves. It just comes from, they want to do a good job, and their customers say they do a good job when they have the reviews, but they don't take those things, they don't amplify them. And by amplifying it, I mean, be on LinkedIn, even though maybe most of your customers aren't on LinkedIn. Facebook's probably better for homeowners, but be on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, be on everything you can be. You can connect all of these things.
And YouTube.
Oh, and YouTube. Yes. I should mention that with Roger.
Yeah. Let's mention that one. That's a good one.
Well, and honestly, it's funny you mentioned that because I told you how we got started just giving information. It was all text based on Facebook. I started creating YouTube videos.
Yep.
That was like the first year. I was like, my downtime was like, okay, I'm going to create some YouTube videos. I'm going to try to give the videos now, the quality and stuff wasn't great. I didn't have a good mic and all that stuff, but the information was good. And I was just trying to give away whatever it could. And especially marketers, I feel like sometimes they kind of like, well, no, I got this proprietary, special, super secret sauce thing. I'm
no, you don't.
You don't. There might be some
you
things
may spell it a funny way to where your acronym works for you, but it's the same thing.
I heard someone at the event we were just at say they have a proprietary way of moving their Google Business Map thing. Just be careful. If anyone tells you that stuff, it's probably a load of BS just to get you to buy.
Yeah, because to be honest, there's only one way. It's Google's way.
Yeah.
And that's all there is to it. It's all you need to know.
Yeah, exactly. So, but you got to promote yourself, and you got to be comfortable promoting yourself. And if you're going to do it on social, do it from a personal profile. The business page, unless you're going to pay for it, they don't get any reach.
Right.
Like even now, everything I do for Relentless Digital is on my personal profile. And then I share it to the other. I share it to their page.
I share the exact same thing.
That's the way the algorithm works. The algorithms like content creators. They like people that are going to bring people back, and personal profiles do that. But you have to be willing, like, especially if you're in a tight knit community and you want to keep like the baby pictures and all that stuff on your feed. You have to be. My feed, I don't ever see any of that stuff. I see business groups. I see
my
people in the trades. That's all I see, and that's fine.
It's my personal page. There's no pictures of me going out, no pictures of me going to sporting events. Yep. It's like, it's about what I do. And it's funny because I had this conversation with a big marketing company that nationwide, actually worldwide. I believe they had 250 offices worldwide, about 20 people in each office. They had either 6 or 9 people on their executive board, 6. And I'm looking at it, and they wanted me to do a lunch and learn about social media. So probably about half an hour in, I'm like, look, so if I were y'all, here's what I do. And I literally teach them that, you, the president, your 3 vice presidents, your 4 leaders, however y'all are all set up. Each one of y'all could write an article or a post every day. Each one of you. Or one a day. So your Monday, your Tuesday, your Wednesday.
Split it up a little bit.
You make one. It's either a picture, a video, something about somebody that works for you, the way they're doing something, who they're doing it for, how they've changed this and done this and the results. And I go through and I show them this, and I'm like, look, if you've got y'all, you've got 250 offices. Each office has about 20 people. So we're talking
a lot of people.
Yeah. Yeah. Keep doing the math.
Yeah.
And then say, guys, look, each one of these people now, when they make a post, most posts are seen about 200 to 400 times. And I extrapolated that out. And at the end of the year, I just showed you how to create 9 billion organic views. What would that do to your business? And they're like, well, we can't do that. We've got compliance. We've got this. It's like, compliance tells you exactly what to say. Don't tell me you can't do it.
Yeah.
Take what compliance says and tell a story about it.
Yep.
Don't sell, don't pitch, don't guarantee. Tell a story about what compliance says you can say. And they're like, we just can't do that. And I'm like, that's why I will beat y'all every day.
Yeah. And it's crazy. Like, and the nice thing is you can show your personality. Like a lot of times people come, they want to work with us. One, they've either watched our videos, and then you start turning that into a strategy. Like, it is so cheap to get video views on any platform. It's so cheap. It's like pennies. Sometimes it's even less than pennies.
And if you own a phone, it's easy to do.
Yeah. And just you think about in the trades, there's so many problems our customers have. Just make a video, write the list down. Leverage your team. You mentioned the story about the guy that asked his apprentices. Ask them what they run into. What questions do the homeowners ask? Make a massive list and just start chipping away at it. It's literally that simple. Just chip away. Almost have even if you have to prompt it where someone on your team is like, okay, ask the question, and then as soon as they ask the question, I'm going to hit record and I'm going to just give my answer. And I have a electrician. He works with someone that helps produce podcasts. Literally, that is what the podcast is. A 5-minute podcast episode. They ask one question. He answers the question. It's one podcast episode. And then we use that and we push it out in a bunch of different ways. But just like we're having a kind of quick Q&A set, just talk.
You bet.
I think some people get really nervous and they want to script things. And scripting can be good in a certain way if it's not like word for word. If it's more like outline scripting, just so you stay on track. But just shoot from the hip.
The only time that I really do scripting and we had the teleprompter set up out in the barn earlier.
Yeah.
If I'm shooting a video for a customer and certain things have to be worded certain ways, compliance,
Yep.
I get that.
Yep.
Roger, it has to be said this way. You have to use this word. You can't use this word. And it's like, okay, give it to me. And I'll go through and read it. I may tweak it to make it sound like me.
Yep.
But I don't mind putting that in teleprompter. I'll read through it 4 or 5 times, put it in a teleprompter, look at the camera, and say exactly what I'm supposed to say. That's about the only time I script. I don't want it to be, okay, today I'm making a video about, and my favorite thing about it is this. It's like, look, that's people see right through that.
Oh, yeah.
And so when I'm doing sponsorship agreements, I will reach out and say, hey, tell me the 3 things you want people to know about your product. And we can put that in the video. If I put 10 things that you want them to know, it's an ad.
Yeah.
You need to buy this because, you need to do this because, this works because. That's an ad. Let me talk about the things you want people to know and then tell people what I love about it. Because we talked about this earlier. I only work with sponsors I want to work with.
Right.
It's like, I love your product, or I don't like what you're doing here. I choose not to. And there are, I've got it in my contract with my management company. There's certain products I don't have to work with and refuse to.
Yep.
And they've even come to me and said, well, we got a product just like this. I'm not interested. And they're like, why? And I've got to go through and explain it. Well, I'm like, well, number one, I don't have to explain it because I already told you I don't want to. They're like, yeah, but they're offering a truckload of money. Are you sure you don't want to do it? And I'm like 100% positive.
Yeah, that's actually how we got our first sponsorship. I think I told you that story where but if not, I'll share it here. Tersh and I, we talked about it. We wanted to make, Tersh has had Service Business Mastery for 7 years, since 2017. He was totally burnt out. We knew each other actually through Facebook groups. That's where we originally met. Then we met in person at a business best practice group and kind of evolved from there. And when I started the marketing company and I went off on my own about a year after we had started, I wanted to start a podcast. I'm like, a lot of stuff I wanted to give back to people and just give advice. And he's like, well, why don't you come co-host me? He was burnt out at this point. He was doing all the audio editing. He was not getting paid anything. He bought all the equipment. He was traveling all these events. He's burnt out and he needed someone to help facilitate so we could really grow this podcast. I don't think we really understood like what we were undertaking, what it was going to be eventually, but we had a sponsor, big CRM, come to us and wanted to throw us money. They're not very well known for their customer service. And there's some things that from a trades perspective or a industry perspective, maybe not something we want to be aligned with. And we interviewed someone else who's actually right here in the DFW, Billy Stevens. So we approached him first. And that's kind of set our whole standard of how we look at partners and sponsors. We want to work with people that we really like, who also have a product that we really believe in.
You bet. And
has service to back up that product, because and I'm sure you even more so, you get tons of requests. Once you start opening that door, oh, tell me about that.
Oh yeah.
Tell me your prices. What's included? What do I get? This, that, and the other thing. And everyone, well, yeah, we'll send the one sheet. Go ahead. And most people are like, we'll never follow up with. We don't really want to entertain the conversation.
You bet.
Because it's not even an interesting product for our audience. We know it's not the right fit, but work with people that you really like working with. And the nice thing about doing something like this is we're kind of in the driver's seat versus we need to pay our bills and we got to kind of take whatever money comes in, but it makes a big difference. And then when we talk about, because people are the influence, everyone knows that there's influencers doing marketing and stuff like that now, but if you really actually believe in the product, it's not even work.
I know.
It's so easy. We just talk about what we love about it because we actually do love it. It's not fake. And I think that genuineness really comes across when you're talking about those types of things.
I love the fact that I can say no. I was at a digital marketing conference and one of the girls up there speaking was talking about, she works with influencers. And she says, look, I don't like influencer marketing. She says, I'm going to be honest with y'all. She said, I mean, if somebody offers me $100,000 to talk nice about a product, she says, I don't care if I don't like it. I'm talking nice. That's $100,000. Ain't nobody going to say no to that.
I would say no to that.
I'm sitting there.
Especially if I didn't like the product.
I'm sitting there right in front of her. I raised my hand. She looked at me and she says, what? You think you'd say no? I said, I turned down $1 million. If it's a product you don't believe in and you have morals.
Well, because at the end of the day, we have an obligation,
You bet. To our listeners.
We feel that obligation, because if you lose that trust, it's gone.
Oh yeah.
And it's the same thing we care with digital marketing. Like the advice we give, I have to believe in it. Otherwise, I'm not going to just throw something at the wall like, you should go try this thing because I heard it was like the next best thing since sliced bread.
Yeah, I love that you put it that way. I used to do a lot of networking. Get out and meet a room full of 50 people and talk to them all the time. I mean, really heavily involved in it. And I went to a different chapter one day and went to an event. And one of the girls there is a marketing girl. Well, I've been on a continuous search for the ultimate marketing company, and she sits there and talks, and she has a good story.
Mm-hmm.
And I asked her when we were done, I said, hey, can we do a face-to-face right after this? I said, I'd like to talk to you. I said, I'm actually looking for a good website designer and all this. Yeah. She said, sure. So I hung around. And I said, so I'm talking to a lot of different marketing companies. I said, what makes you different? What would you tell me? What are the first 3 things I need to do to my website or do for marketing? And she says, you need to do this. You need to do this. You need to do this. I said, network. She said, oh yeah, great results. I said, good. I said, you're here at a networking event to get new customers. She said, yeah. Are you doing these 3 things yourself? And this girl just looked at me and she says, no. I said, so you're telling me you don't believe in it, or you really don't think it'll work? Because if you're not doing them, why should I? And this girl got tears in her eyes. I mean, she literally, and I don't mean just tears in her eyes, that they started running down her face. And I'm like, look, I didn't mean to hurt you or say anything bad or anything. She says, no. She said, wow. She said, that was real. She said, I don't know why we're not doing it. I said, well, you're here to get customers. She said, no, I heard exactly what you said. And she called me about a week later. She said, I wish I could talk to you every day. She said, you literally just made me look at everything that I'm doing and wonder why we're not doing certain things.
Isn't it wild how simple sometimes the advice can be?
It is. We don't even see what we don't see.
Flip it on its head, look internally, look in the mirror, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, damn. Like, yeah, why am I not
doing that?
Yeah. Yeah. That's wild. That's a great story.
Man, this has been fun. Take a second again. Tell everybody who you are and what you do, where they can get in touch with you.
Yeah. So, company's name is Relentless Digital. I can be found anywhere and everywhere on social. Facebook is probably the preferred destination for me. I answer messages quite often. But we are a company focused on local SEO, marketing automation. We do a couple other things, but those are really the bread and butter for us, because really what we touched on it just a little bit earlier, but most companies operationally are not sound. So we'll try to figure out how can we help these companies be more sound. Speed to lead automation. Any missed phone call, any abandoned phone call, any voicemail, any web chat,
you bet.
Angie, home advice, doesn't matter. We can funnel it through our system and get you in touch with those people. We can follow up with open estimates. We can do mass outbound campaigns. We can do all these things to keep your board full, because HVAC is very seasonal. Plumbing has some seasonality, especially around the holidays and in school and stuff like that. And electrical, those are the 3 that we primarily work with. It's a big focus of ours. And honestly, now we're starting to lean in some of the AI technology to help, so you don't have to have the
communicate even better.
Well, because here's the thing, we run these mass outbound campaigns to get tune-ups and plumbing inspections, water heater flushes, all this stuff. And they wouldn't answer the messages.
Yeah.
And, as someone who's like, we know it worked because we can see how many yeses and how many people were interested in the offer, and they didn't we got the hard part done. We asked the question, they said yes, and nothing happened, and the operations fell apart. So we're trying to layer AI in with that so we can start booking jobs and they can keep the conversation going, book the job into the CRM. That's really, I think, where the future is going with things.
Oh, yeah.
So that's where we're focused on.
I love that. So back when you were working at the HVAC company, tell me about the best day you ever remember having there.
Oh, best day. That's a great question, because honestly, I don't think I've ever thought like one best day. I would say there was a point in time, I don't know if it was just one day, but when we started that first company, we had all those problems, and we finally got payroll on direct deposit with a legitimate payroll company, and it every time we had money in the bank. And it was probably 2 years or so of this hard work, this constant struggle, this always looking at we're doing the bank account, just constantly money's in the bank account, we can pay today.
You bet.
Not based off a P&L or a budget or anything else. It was just literally money in, money out. Remembering that and realizing like we accomplished like this massive mountain we climbed. And the company's still around today. They're doing really well. And having a part in that, I think, just lessons, so many lessons learned of what not to do have transpired to help build what we have now, because you look back and you realize it could always be worse.
Oh yeah. Every day of the week.
Yeah.
All right. So talking about worse back then, tell me about the worst day you ever remember having.
Worst. And this happened more than once. So it's kind of a collection of days, but when in the morning we had jobs set for the day, and a lot of times the business owner, the only way he was getting paid, 'cause he wasn't on payroll. He would take money, he would be on vacation, we just pull out a draw. And I didn't really even know what draws were at that point. And I had a plan for the money and had a check in and get the equipment. And then as soon as we got the equipment, we had to collect. Like we could not finish a job that day. We had to collect so we could, and then we had to collect by a certain time so we get to the bank. And when those things would fail, and either that, I would wake up in the morning and all of a sudden the money that I was going to be handing someone wasn't there. And because it was unexpected, we didn't have the plans in place. They go to the supplier, check wouldn't go through, or they wouldn't let us have the equipment. Then I have to call a customer. And then usually we had 2 jobs a day. So now I had to call 2 customers and try to rearrange all this stuff. People would be angry. We had to reschedule stuff. Just like whatever could possibly go wrong went wrong. And because we didn't have any sort of buffer or filter where we could like, oh, let's go put it on this card today and pay it back later. Those days were the most stressful. I'll give you one other time. So that first year, just to add to, I probably should add this, 2013 in Wisconsin. So the first year I was there, we went from 20 techs to 3. That same winter was the coldest winter we had in 30 years. Like literally 2 weeks straight where it didn't get above like -10. Everything was breaking. We had no techs. It was just myself and this other gal in the office. We would literally shut the phones off at noon, go back. We had to listen to 50 voicemails, like fill up the voicemail machine, and then start prioritizing on a whiteboard. Who do we get to? Who's got the oldest equipment? Like just literally try to prioritize whatever we could. And then we have to do the same thing at the end of the day. This happened for weeks.
Wow.
And it was just, I'll never forget it, because you sit and you just couldn't stop thinking about this work and all this stuff that was going to, because the next day comes, you know, it's going to be just as bad.
Oh yeah.
You literally know what you're going to walk yourself into. It's like, it's a terrible thing to wake up that day and be like, oh my God, this is going to suck again today. So, but again, good lessons on how to prepare for those types of events and have backup plans and stuff like that. But sometimes the best lessons learned are the ones you actually have to feel the pain, because then you'll never make those mistakes again.
Tell me the podcast again.
Service Business Mastery. That's with Tersh Blissett and myself. He is the best dressed guy in the trade. So if
he's got the best shoes, that's for daggum, I'm sure.
He's got the best damn shoes. You saw him yesterday. He was all white with his white and gold spike shoes. But we awesome show. It very well-rounded content. So anything in business, whether it's you work with your wife and you want to have some counseling sessions, we have some of that stuff. We have marketing stuff. We have all the new tools and technology. A lot of focus lately has been AI and automation for the trades, including not just the technology, but like the training. Bluon's got an awesome AI bot that can help you in the field. Earn and Play Learning's got some awesome stuff as far as training your technicians from home and creating this environment where you're constantly training your people. So there's a lot of really cool things coming down the trades, and we're trying to just stay on top of it and bring that stuff to everyone for free.
There you go. Josh, thank you very much.
Thanks, Roger.